Todd Rundgren in our studio here at NTR Radio 6.
Holy moly. Here I am.
Here we are again.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm suffering just like everyone else is. I expected I'd be in a open air cafe, enjoying a beer or something like that instead of totally bundled up. And it's always great to be in Amsterdam, but this has been
cold.
An adjustment, let's say. An adjustment.
Yeah, it's not our typical spring, I have to tell you, because as I told you last year at this period we had a heat wave. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then the summer before that you got no summer, as I recall. No summer, and not until October, like when I came for the first Metropole gig.
So
the first of many.
Let's forget about the weather. It's great having you, and I also know that there's a lot of people listening online. So also a special welcome to our international guests. If you have any questions for Todd Rundgren, or if you want to have one of those 6 CDs that we're giving away, just send an email to CoLive@radio6.nl. Dus CoLive@radio6.nl, radio6.nl, als je een gesigneerde cd van Todd wil. En we gaan eerlijk met Todd de e-mails bekijken die binnenkomen om te besluiten wie er een gaat krijgen.
Is that 6 CDs or 6 double CDs?
Actually, it's 12 CDs.
12 CDs, exactly. Yeah. 6 double CDs because it includes the fabulous...
yes, it's the special
last
deluxe.
November's performance with the Metropole.
Yeah.
So
I hear they're selling fast, those double CDs.
Could be.
Yeah. Todd's store is run out.
Which store?
Todd store.
Oh.
Do you know that?
I heard it. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Todd Rundgren is hier in de studio en we geven dus een paar cd's weg. En hij gaat ook optreden in Paradiso en daar mogen we nog 6 kaarten voor weggeven. 3 keer 2 kaarten. CoLive@radio6.nl voor het concert op 4 juni. Because the June 4 you are in the Paradiso again.
Once again.
Without an orchestra?
Unfortunately, no.
What are you going to do? What can we expect?
Me. We're basically doing the state album and material that sort of fits in that format. It's just me and Prairie Prince on drums and Jesse Gress on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of like I guess you would call it a dance-ish oriented show. In other words, most of the places we're going, you don't sit down unless, you're too infirm to stand. And we generally, kind of slam our way through about an hour and a half of pretty high-energy music, much of it from state, some of it from other phases as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of a, I suppose it's a hybridized performance because it isn't strictly EDM. I sing too much for it to be that. So while it has kind of EDM underpinnings, it's still kind of the way that I do things. A lot of singing, well, not a lot, but a few of the more familiar tunes revamped for this particular format.
Oh, wow. Can you give one example?
Could I give one example?
Of a song that you are redoing in this format?
Well, I actually did when State came out or comes out, I think it came out or came out. It's coming out soon in Japan.
Uh-huh.
They wanted me to do a bonus track because Japanese domestic CDs cost more than imports do. It's always been a bizarre economic thing, so they need something to make their domestic releases more attractive. So I did a medley of Hello, It's Me, Can We Still Be Friends, and I Saw the Light in a more contemporary style. That'll be part of the show at some point.
Nice. 4 juni, Paradiso, Todd Rundgren. CoLive@radio6.nl als je daarbij wil zijn. En we geven dus 6 van die mooie dubbel cd's weg. En die zijn echt heel speciaal. Want dat is dus die nieuwe stateplaat plus de bonusdisc met het Metropole Orchestra. Over het Metropole Orchestra gesproken. We gaan weer even terug naar die 11 november. That setlist was really impressive. Of course, we now had backing singers. Mathilde Santing, Wouter Penders en Mariska Heckenberg. And one of the requests we get often is to play Second Wind. To do that with an orchestra, how did that feel?
That was pretty exciting. Although that was a song that we did in the Well, in the second wind phase, I guess it was. The first album in that series was called Nearly Human, and that was when I was touring with sort of a large band, 12 pieces, black background singers and horns and 2 keyboard players. And so that music was kind of made for a larger arrangement to start with. And we had a lot of the keyboard instruments back in the day kind of imitating what an orchestra would do, but it was much improved having an actual real orchestra playing it.
Here it is, Todd Rundgren met de Metropole Orchestra onder leiding van Steve Sidwell, Paradiso, 11 november vorig jaar. We got some questions from listeners coming in, Todd. One of our faithful listeners, Herman Rovers, is asking you, are there any young talents that you would like to produce right now?
That's a question I often get asked over the years. You know, who that's happening now would you like to work with? It's a very dangerous thing to want to do, because unless the people that you're working with really want you to, you know, have your input and to help them do what they want to accomplish, help them accomplish what they want to accomplish, then you're in a very compromised position. So I've never actually gone out and asked an artist, can I produce you? Because I realize that puts me at a disadvantage right at the beginning. I want them more than they want me. And so, you know, as a producer, I always, you know, no matter how much there's an act I think I might like to work with, I realize, first of all, that without that sort of reciprocal desire on the part of the other act, it can turn into a complete disaster. And also, you know, you never know. People that you admire musically sometimes aren't that much fun in person. You know, so just simply desiring to work with somebody musically sometimes is a way of getting yourself in big trouble, you know.
We also got an email in from Keiko.
Oh, Keiko. Hi, Keiko.
And Keiko asks if you could, from an artist point of view, tell us something about working with the Metropole Orchestra.
Well, it's certainly not the kind of thing you get to do every day. I mean, some artists probably do and get used to it, but for me, it's very daunting in a way. You can't kind of, you know, even when we're doing rehearsals, you still got to try and be half good. You can't just be lazy and do nothing. You have to try, because all these people, they do this. I mean, I'm a musician for a living, but I don't play every single day. You know, and most of these people, they play all the time. You know, they are truly, you know, accomplished players. So it's for somebody like me, you know, who usually does things on my terms, and usually my bar is lower than that. It's a pretty, it's pretty daunting. But, you know, it's so much fun when you get through all that work and you get to the final product, you know, and then everyone plays together, because that moment when players play together is when all of that stuff is history. You know, it's all, you give that all up and just throw yourself into the performance.
And that night was memorable because the vibe in the Paradiso was really amazing.
Well, it's always kind of like that. And then I think the bullhorn kind of set the tone as well in the beginning of the show.
Istvan is asking by email, he has a few questions, I'll pick some. He says, has the song Bardo been considered for inclusion to the official state visit?
Not yet, but, you know, I'm open to suggestions. I'm not sure that it, I think it could be made to fit into it, but we're not doing the typical sort of down-tempo thing. You know, like I say, it's a little more dance-oriented, a little less down-tempo techno than might be in different circumstances, I guess.
And here I have a question from Glad and Valdi from the UK. They say, hello, Co and Todd. Can you play Kaleidoscope, please? We are flying to Helsinki to catch the first Eurostate visit and are looking very much forward to it. And we'll also be at the Paradiso gig. Well, we're going to play that perhaps later on, but can you tell us something about that song, Kaleidoscope?
It's funny that people sometimes latch on to songs that don't make any sense to me. In a sense, I was kind of I was kind of experimenting with a few things, trying to figure out a way I could turn like a very conventional kind of drum loop into a more interesting performance. And then I had, of course, had to write lyrics to it and come up with some sort of idea. And I got this whole sort of, a lot of the album is about extremes and about cautionary tales. And so I got into this whole litany of extremes. And to me, the whole idea is that for the most part, you live in between the extremes. Mm-hmm. And that life is essentially navigating this, navigating the rapids that want to throw you against, either extreme. And while you're trying to keep a path right down the middle.
Yeah. I think it shows great talent to be able to write a song that doesn't make sense to the guy that wrote it.
Although most of the songs on this record didn't make sense to me afterwards. Because my songwriting process has gotten very subconscious. I finish all the music first. And I may just have a title, a working title, have some vague idea what the song is about, and then I'll write all the lyrics and sing it like in the very final hour. And it's because I've written so many songs, I'm afraid that if I get too, the process becomes too conscious, it becomes difficult. You're too aware of like doing stuff that you've done before, repeating old habits and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I find that by pushing it off as long as possible and making it as much a subconscious process as I can, then more unexpected things come out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, often I have to figure out afterwards what they actually meant.
How is it for a composer to listen to versions by other people?
Well, sometimes people try and do literally what you did in some sense or another. They get so enamored with it. And it's always great when somebody can hear it a different way. It's almost, more fun to listen to when someone hears it a completely different way than the original, as with this particular version. But
and you recognize the voice after 2 or 3 lines?
Yeah, of course. But
Mathilde Santing, trouwens, was dat. Op een plaat van haar al in een wat oudere release, Carried Away. Pretending to Care. Mathilde Santing, a great Todd Rundgren fan. And she was with us in the Paradiso.
Certainly was, yes. And to great effect, I might say. That was the thing I missed the first time. Yeah. When we did the first performance, there were so many parts I thought could have benefited with a little bit of background singing, and I think that it was a great improvement, and it was certainly an honor to have Matilda be our choir master for that particular for that performance.
Mariska Heckenberg and Wouter Penders being the other two, and Wouter made all the arrangements. And of course, they also are present at the new State CD, deluxe version, with that extra bonus CD with that selections from that performance from November 11th last year. Here's a good example of Todd and the interaction with the background singers. I have a question about this song later, Todd, so pay attention.
Blinds are drawn, the sound of afternoon is gone. The corner store has locked its door, and everyone has left for home. When their sleepy little heads snuggle into their beds, you and I will stay. Watch the sun fade away. Balladeer, buccaneer, the liar, the man who would be king.
That song, that we got a lot of response every time we played it on the air. That is...
It's funny, it's a song I didn't write for myself. It was written for Up Against It, a musical for the Public Theater in New York. And even though I recorded you could say an album's worth of demos for the musical. Mm-hmm. They never did a cast recording or anything. And So up until this point, the only documents of those songs were the demos that I had done, and they were all kind of my own little fake sounds and stuff like that. So even when the musical was performed live, they had like maybe a 6-piece band, something like that. Yeah. So to have it fully realized like that, which was my original vision, that it would go all the way to Broadway. Up against it would be a big hit, and they would have the biggest orchestra pit in the entire Broadway area, but never made it out of previews, as it were.
But do I understand that you have that particular piece of work as sketches in its completeness available?
The entirety of Up Against It was actually released in Japan. My demos of Up Against It was released in Japan, but nowhere else.
So it could be possible to do a whole orchestra production of it.
Certainly would be.
Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, okay. We'll need a bunch of singers for that, though. It really is a a musicale, stage musical.
No lack of singers here.
Okay.
Nou, misschien een nieuw plan geboren, je weet het niet. Todd Rundgren, hij is hier in de studio. En het uur is alweer bijna om. Todd, I think we're going to close the hour with the request from one of our listeners to play Kaleidoscope, because that is something that is more in the line of what you're going to do on June 4 in Paradiso. So
more or less, yeah.
But more than an orchestra performance.
Oh, yeah, certainly,
Yeah.
Well,
maybe people come in and
only disadvantage of working with the Paradiso is we can't fit more people in. Working with the orchestra, we can't fit more people into the Paradiso.
Yeah.
We just reach capacity at a certain point.
Yeah.
But so we'll be taking up a little less space, more space for people to come in and listen.
Oké. En wij gaan zo meteen via de e-mail bekendmaken wie de kaarten en wie de gesigneerde cd's hebben gewonnen. One listener, I can tell that your signed cd is on the way because you email us all the way from San Diego. So Cindy, send us your address and we'll get that cd over there. And Todd Rundgren, thank you so much for spending time with us. And
it's always my pleasure. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you June 4 in the Paradiso. Dit was hier in CoLive, Mr. Todd Rundgren.